I'm Maestro Konrad Faust Tindel. I've been in the society for 25 years and fencing almost that long.
Excellent. And what do you fight in the SCA?
Generally, I fight rapier and spear. I don't fight much of any armored. I study period technique as a majority.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. And is there any kind of like preferred rapier style that you like to fight?
I like a Fabris Gigante mix.
Okay.
That's my preferred. On the melee field, it's very different. It's really the art of the cheap shot. It's people who are not looking at you and taking advantage of tempo and distance.
Yeah, melee fighting is definitely very different than dueling. So
it's a very different animal.
All the fighting today and yesterday, did you compete in any of the tournaments or any of the other events?
I didn't fight in the tournament. I generally do not go to approach people to ask to fight for them. If they feel inclined to ask me to fight for them, I will. I did not fight in the early bird tournament. I decided I just wanted to do pickups all war and just fight fun people. Yeah. I did 10 authorizations yesterday morning, so it got kind of warm.
Yeah. Wow. So you said Fabris and Gigante?
Gigante, yeah.
Okay.
Those are my preferences. Fabris, Gigante, and Capoferro. I find Capoferro is a very rigid form, and it's do as I say, and if you get stabbed by doing something different, it's not my fault as a teacher. Fabris is very much I'm going to talk about things that other masters are not talking about. All these other things are valid and good, but here's what they didn't fit into their book and different actions to do. And Gigante, I find, is more existential. I'm going to teach you to sword fight so that you may defend the dojo if anyone comes to slander it. It is a philosophical context. You can begin with it or end with it or in the middle, and it's here are 3 plates and here are 3 bits of information. You figure out which one applies to which at which time. They all apply.
I mean, how would you describe your own fencing style? Is it do you just like have to switch modes, or do you kind of like take a little bit of every?
I like to make other people's fencing suck more. I like to take time away from them, and I enjoy a lot of growing with other people. If they start to morph and change, I will go with it and use the fundamentals to apply rather than the strict rules of the game.
Is there any particular type of opponents that you find like a little more difficult for you to deal with? Or?
I don't deal well with rushers. When someone closes heavy on time, you get inside of my good reach, and I don't have time with my mechanical levers in order to cover some of that time very well.
Yeah.
So it is a detriment. And being a taller fighter, it's all in my negatives, which is one of the reasons I prefer sword and dagger, because if you get close enough, you get in threat of the dagger.
Could you kind of describe to our audience like what's your experience and like your fighting career's been like? You could like in the SCA or any other like kind of organizations.
So I've played in HEMA. I played with Tattershall. I've been to SoCal Sword Fight. I've played in the SCA for many years, and I run a study group in San Diego for Tattershall. I was my first 2 years, about a year and a half I decided to authorize because I was willing to go and do things more than practice. I had a pizza delivery job, and I couldn't afford everything that was going on. And once I got to become more of a serious student, around 5-8 years in, I started attending Tattershall regularly, driving 2 hours to get to the practices.
Yeah.
And I went there for at least 3 years of solid practice over and over. And I learned the fundamentals of where I should be going. There's growth, and then there's growth in the right direction. Having some sort of mentorship is a recommended path, be that from a book, person, or just knowing a historical way to do it.
In a SoCal Sword Fight a couple times. I can't remember if I've seen you, unfortunately.
I've only been once or twice, and usually we have another SCA rapier event that's been going on, Kite Rapier War, not too far. Actually, it's on the other side of this park around that time, and it's a real fun event, so I've been going to that.
You said, yeah. It makes a lot of sense. And what, do you just do rapier at the HEMA events? Or?
Usually it's a rapier. I am not good with longsword, but I am trying to get better with it. My major downfall is getting the right gloves and getting to work, but Fire Drake Steel actually makes an amazing custom set. I just have to sew my gloves the rest of the way in, and I can actually feel the sword rather than fight with giant minions.
Yeah. Yeah, I know, like, for a lot of longsworders, like, their gloves is like a constant battle.
It's a connection sword, and what we start to allow more and more. And it is the constant battle of I can't feel the sword, I can't do the proper technique, but I also want to keep my fingers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for the fighters watching?
Constraint, stringer them, make it so that they can't hit you and you can hit them through mechanical defense as well as a time defense. Each one of us is good. Paired together, they are better.
Okay, and could you and just for some of the more inexperienced people, could you explain like constraint?
So I describe stringere as an overarching thing where constraint and invitation are part of it and paired. So the constraint should be bringing the sword across yourself in such a way that they do not have a direct safe line and they must do an action that doesn't directly threaten you in order to be able to hit and threaten you. Right? So you're causing them to take more time, which gives you more time in the defense. You don't want someone to be able to throw a shot that is controlled and comfortable and fast before you notice it's really launched, because your parry time is reduced.
Yeah. Any events that you'd recommend to go to?
I recommend Great Western. I recommend Rapier War. SoCal Sword Fight is fun. I'm still looking to go to some of the major ones like Pennsic and or Gulf Wars. That's probably coming up here in the near future. But I go to my favorite war is Betrayal. It's sort of a party in our backyard with a bunch of fencers where we get together and get to have a good time. It's a shadier field than this, but we get to experiment with some of the rules that we bring out to other events. We get about this many fencers.
So quite a bit.
Yeah, though it is more of our kingdom all shows up to it than it is other kingdoms, because it is absolutely at the bottom of our kingdom.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's pretty far away.
Yeah, well, for some, it's a 45-minute, half-hour drive for me. This is much further.
Thank you so much for answering all these
questions. Thank you very much. Have a good time.
Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you on the field.
Not in the melee field.
Well, but it's a big field.